Okay, so you've sent off that workers' comp demand.
And now you're in that waiting game.
Trying to figure out what happens next.
Right.
Especially here in Southern California.
We're going to unpack all of that with an expert who knows this world inside and out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you hit send on that demand.
And then crickets.
Yeah.
What's the timeline look like here?
So usually in Southern California, you're going to get some kind of acknowledgement that they've received it
Okay.
within a week or two.
But it's not really a response.
Okay.
Think of it like the Postal Service receipt.
It just means they got the paperwork.
It doesn't mean they've looked at it or are really responding to it.
Got it.
A real response with like an offer.
That's going to take a little bit longer.
Okay, that makes sense.
What factors into how long that response takes?
I'm guessing a straightforward case?
Is a lot different than something more complex.
Yeah, for sure.
If you've got a simple injury,
Clear documentation.
they're going to be able to process that a lot faster
Right.
than, say, a long-term occupational illness.
Where you've seen a bunch of different specialists.
Something more complex like that, they're going to have to review all the medical records,
Okay.
maybe consult with their own experts.
Assess the value.
So the more complex it is, the longer it's going to take.
And I imagine the claims adjuster's workload factors into that as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They're handling tons of cases at the same time.
But sometimes it's not even personal.
They're just working through a queue.
Right. It's like being at the DMV sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one of the reasons why.
Being organized from the beginning is so important.
Yeah.
Because if you can give them a really good demand package.
With all the documentation, medical records, accident reports, wage statements.
Everything all at once. Nice and organized.
It just helps them be able to process it a lot faster.
That makes sense.
So what happens if
You've waited patiently?
you haven't heard back and you're starting to get a little concerned?
Yeah.
What should you do? So the number one thing is to document everything.
Okay.
And this is good for the entire process.
But especially when there's silence from them.
Every phone call, every email,
Anytime you try to contact the insurance company.
make a note of it. Date, time, what you talked about.
Okay, even if it's just leaving a voicemail.
Especially if you leave a voicemail.
Because then down the line.
If there's any question of, did you reach out?
Oh, were they neglecting your claim?
You could say, well, hold on. I called you on this date.
And I called you on this date.
And I sent an email on this date.
Right.
It just builds that timeline.
Okay.
So you're documenting everything.
Should you reach out?
Should you give them a little nudge?
Yeah. A friendly follow-up never hurts.
Okay.
Just be professional, be courteous.
But yeah, definitely reach out.
And if you have an attorney at this point.
Would this be a good time to kind of loop them in?
Absolutely.
They can be able to be more strategic about it?
Sometimes a letter from an attorney is all it takes.
To get things moving. So let's say you finally get that response
Okay.
and they give you an offer.
It's probably going to be lower than you were hoping for.
Yeah.
That's the classic low ball, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's their tactic.
Is it personal or is it just how it works?
It's not personal.
It's just how they do it.
They start low and see what you do.
So they lowball you, which is frustrating,
Yeah.
even when you're kind of expecting it.
Right. It's never fun.
So what do you do?
Well, it's good to remember
That why sending you that lowball offer.
it means that they're taking your claim seriously.
Okay.
They're putting a number on it.
Then you just have to figure out how to counter.
Okay, so instead of just reacting emotionally,
Take a breath.
analyze the offer strategically.
Exactly.
Where are the holes in their argument?
Yeah. Like put on your detective hat.
Really dig into the details.
What are they undervaluing?
Okay.
Is it your lost wages?
Is it your medical expenses?
Are they not taking into account?
That you might need more treatment in the future.
Right. Like if you've been told you might need surgery.
Exactly.
That's a perfect example.
Because you're going to need to get documentation from your doctor.
And yep, this person needs surgery.
It's going to cost this much.
And this is how it's going to affect their ability to work.
And their quality of life.
Right. So you've got to make them see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Like they're just trying to put a discount on your health.
Right.
And that's not okay.
Yeah.
But if you can at least figure out,
How they're valuing these different things.
even if it's low.
Then it gives you a place to start.
Exactly. You just got to figure out where to push back.
Okay, so that's where the negotiation skills come in.
Yeah.
And that can be really intimidating for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. It's tough.
Because you're not all lawyers.
Right. You got to find that line.
Between standing your ground.
But also being willing to compromise.
Okay, so what are some of the tactics
That these insurance companies use.
that you need to kind of watch out for?
Oh, they've got a bunch.
But one of the most common ones,
Is the deadline.
the deadline. Okay.
Yeah. You know, like,
You've got to settle by this date,
or else.
right?
And it just makes you feel pressured.
And like you're going to miss out.
Like you've got to make this decision right now.
Exactly.
But the thing is, a fair settlement.
Takes time.
That's true.
So don't let them bully you.
with some made-up deadline.
Okay, so what do?
If they start giving you that deadline pressure,
Just be calm.
okay,
Remind them.
that you want to reach a fair resolution.
And that doesn't happen overnight
Okay,
if they're really insistent about the deadline.
ask for an extension.
So you and your attorney can review everything.
Okay.
So that's the deadline. What about the sympathy play?
Oh, yeah,
I feel like that's got to be a popular one.
because everyone wants to feel like,
People are on their side.
right,
So with this one, the adjuster,
might lay it on really thick.
with the friendliness.
Trying to build that rapport
Okay.
and make you feel like you can trust them. They might tell you about how,
Something similar happened to them or a family member.
right,
Anything to try to seem relatable.
right. It's like they're trying to be your friend
Yeah.
when really,
You're supposed to be representing the insurance company.
Sounds
So
good.
be friendly, be polite,
but just don't forget who they really work for.
right? Keep your guard up.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the deadline.
We've got the sympathy.
What other tactics are there?
Oh, the classic.
The final offer.
Well, the final offer,
Yeah.
which I'm guessing is rarely actually the final offer,
Right. It's usually just a bluff.
to try to get you to settle.
So how can you tell if it's a real final offer?
Or if they're just bluffing.
That's a tough one.
It really depends.
Okay.
Think about how their offer compares.
To what you and your attorney have discussed.
Does it seem reasonable?
Okay.
And also, what's your gut telling you?
Sometimes you just get a feeling.
That something's not right.
So if you're getting that final offer vibe and it doesn't feel right, you can walk away.
And you've got options if that direct negotiation isn't working.
Okay.
You could try mediation.
Mediation, that sounds a little less intimidating than going to court.
It definitely is.
Mediation is more structured
But it's still way less formal.
than a court case.
Okay, so how does it work?
So you and the insurance company,
And both of your attorneys.
you meet with a mediator
Okay.
and they're neutral.
Okay, so they're like a referee,
Yeah, kind of.
making sure everyone's playing fair,
Right, but they're not there to make the decisions for you.
Okay.
They're just guiding the conversation.
helping you guys find a compromise.
So it's more about finding common ground
Exactly.
than like winning or losing.
Yeah, and because it's more collaborative like that.
It can lead to more creative solutions
Hey.
than just going back and forth.
Plus, it's almost always faster and cheaper than going to court.
That's always a plus.
Right.
Okay, so less formal, but I'm guessing you still have to be prepared.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Don't let that relaxed setting fool you.
Mediation is a really important step.
So be ready to explain your side of the story
Exactly.
and how your injuries have affected your life.
What you think is fair.
And bring all your documentation.
Of course, yeah.
Medical records, pay stubs, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, so it's like advocating for yourself, but in a different setting.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So what happens if mediation doesn't work?
Well, in that case, or if your case is really complex.
Arbitration might be the next step.
Okay, so if mediation is like meeting in the middle,
Arbitration is bringing in a judge,
it's similar.
but it's not a judge in the traditional sense.
Okay.
With arbitration, you present your case,
To a neutral third party.
called an arbitrator,
Okay.
and they listen to both sides,
They look at the evidence.
and then they make a decision.
So it's like a mini trial.
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
And it is usually faster than going to court.
But their decision is final.
Yeah, in most cases, there's very limited options for appeal.
So choosing the right arbitrator is pretty important.
That is a really good point.
You really want to make sure,
You've got someone who's impartial.
and who knows workers' comp cases really well.
Right.
This is another area where an experienced attorney can be really helpful
Okay.
because they can help you find the right person
Okay, so it's like having a guide.
through this whole legal maze.
Exactly.
Okay, let's say the worst case scenario.
None of this works. You end up in court.
Yeah, litigation.
What should someone expect if they get to that point?
Well, first of all, litigation is a really big deal,
Okay.
and it's usually the last resort.
If nothing else has worked,
And I'm guessing it's expensive.
yeah, you can be very expensive.
And it can take a really long time.
Months, even years to get a resolution.
Now, it's high risk.
High reward, potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you even begin to weigh those factors
Well, it's important to talk to your attorney.
about your needs and priorities?
Like, if you need money right away to cover your bills.
A long court case might not be the best option,
Right.
but if you have a strong case
And you can afford to wait.
and you're willing to fight for what you deserve.
Litigation might be the way to go.
But it's not just about the money, right?
Right.
There's the emotional toll to think about, too.
Exactly.
Going to court is stressful
And you have to relive your injury.
over and over again.
So you really got to factor all of that in.
Yeah, it's not just, can you go to court,
But should you?
right?
Okay, so you've gone through all of that,
Negotiations, maybe mediation, maybe even arbitration.
and you finally reached a settlement.
Congratulations, that's huge.
That's a big accomplishment.
So what happens next? You just get a check.
Well, here in California.
A workers' comp judge has to approve it.
Okay, so there's still some oversight.
Yeah, they want to make sure it's in your best interest.
That makes sense.
And then you'll get the money.
Usually within 30 days.
Okay, so the money's in hand, then what?
That's when the real planning starts.
Right, because it's not just like winning the lottery.
Exactly.
This money has a purpose.
This is to help you get your life back on track.
Okay.
So you got to think about your priorities.
Medical expenses, paying off debt.
Maybe you want to start your own business.
Yeah, it's about making choices that set you up for the future.
Exactly.
Whatever that looks like for you.
And remember,
the settlement isn't always just a one-time thing.
Okay.
Sometimes it includes things like
ongoing medical treatment.
or help finding a new job.
Okay, so even after the settlement.
There might be resources out there.
Exactly. You just got to know what to ask for.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful.
Thank you so much for walking us through all of this.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Glad I could help.
And to our listener who's probably going through this right now,
Remember, you've got this.
you're not alone. And as you move forward,
Take some time to think about what you want this next chapter to look like.
how can this experience help you build that future that you really want?
We're rooting for you.
Call now 714-442-9741. Thank you.